Are you training in the gym, eating clean foods and doing everything the fitness industry tells you, yet when you look in the mirror you're still skinny fat? No abs, no muscles, just a bit soft with a bit of a belly. You might be thinking that it's your genetics to blame, or maybe your body's just not cut out to be bigger, stronger and leaner, but that is not the case. You're just following the wrong plan to fix skinny fat. I've worked with over 167 skinny fat men that were in the same position as you. Frustrated, stuck, doing everything everyone tells them to do, but it's just not working. Which just leaves them thinking that their genetics are to blame, but it's not. So in this video, I'm going to break down why nothing has worked so far, and then show you exactly what will work, so you can start moving forward to fixing your skinny fat physique once and for all. But before we do that, it's vital that you get your nutrition and numbers set up correctly. No amount of training or meal plans will fix the skinny fat physique if those numbers aren't set up correctly. So to help with that, I've put together a free nutritional blueprint that you can download in the bio, so you can get everything worked out to guarantee that you're on the right track. It's the exact same strategy that I use to put together my clients' nutrition targets and macro splits, and it will explain a little bit on how to adjust those as you progress. So make sure you grab that in the description below. So here's the truth. If you're skinny fat, you've probably tried a bunch of different things that haven't worked. So I'm going to break down the most common ones that I see, and maybe you've done multiple of them. Now the first one is bulking too soon, or even doing a dirty bulk. And this is pretty common, right? This is actually the first thing that I did. I thought, right, I'm skinny fat, I want to add more size, so I'll go on a bulk, add size, and then I'll fix the fat side of things. And this might work for some people. If you're skinny with very little body fat, a bulk might be the best thing to do. But the majority of skinny fat men have moobs that they don't like, lower back fat that they don't like, and quite often a belly that they don't like. And all that's going to happen if you bulk with these things that you dislike at the start, those areas that you dislike are going to grow and get worse and worse and worse, leaving you with this absolute huge mammoth of a cut at the end. So you kind of have to look worse for like 9 months to gain a load of muscle, but you're probably going to gain a lot of fat with it as well. Even best case scenario, you do a lean bulk, you're still going to see an increase in size of those areas that you dislike. So doing a bulk is kind of going backwards more so than forwards, so I wouldn't recommend it. In fact, I've even had some clients that have jumped on board with me and been absolutely adamant that we start with a bulk. 2 months in, they're like, I'm gaining muscle, but you know, I've still got my belly and my moobs and I don't like taking my shirt off, so what should I do? And then we have to have that conversation of, right, we'll start with a recomp first. So we don't want to waste any time and go backwards. Plus, as a side note, the whole dirty bulk thing, you know, there is a time and a place. If you struggle to gain size, you might need to eat more calories than you think. If you're skinny fat, I certainly wouldn't recommend that because it's only going to make you look worse. The second mistake that is very, very common is excessive amounts of cardio. And you can't be blamed for that, right? You think losing body fat, lots of cardio, fat burning classes, run until you're skinny. And the amount of times I hear people say, oh, I'm going to do cardio and lose body fat, then I'll do weights. In reality, it actually needs to be the other way around. If you're just doing cardio, you're spending calories in the short term, but your body's adaptation to that in the long run means that you're not going to keep any muscle at all. In fact, you'll probably lose more muscle than keep muscle. So if you're skinny fat, and you do loads and loads of cardio in excessive amounts, you're going to waste away muscle tissue, you're going to atrophy, you're going to go catabolic, and you're going to end up being a smaller version of skinny fat. And for most skinny fat guys, their body plateaus quite quickly. So as soon as they hit a plateau with doing cardio, they either have to keep eating less, which is not preferable, or they have to add even more cardio to keep up with the body adapting, leaving you flat, weak, and smaller. In fact, this is exactly what my client David did. He did a lot of running, ran a few marathons, did well losing a bit of body fat, but he ended up being skinny, flat, and he said to me that he didn't look how he thought he would look once he lost the body fat. And that's simply because he only did cardio. As soon as we started incorporating a little bit of resistance training, he was able to start gaining muscle while staying lean. That leads me on to mistake number 3, and that is following generic workouts. If you're following a generic workout you found online or some influencers program they've sold you, chances are it's probably not very well aligned to the goals that you have. If you're trying to fix a skinny fat physique, it's a little bit more precise than someone that's just going on a bulk. I've had countless conversations with skinny fat guys telling me that they're going to do calisthenics and try and get their physique that way. Some people tell me that they're going to do swimming and fix skinny fat that way. And then some people going, oh, I've been told to do full body, upper, lower, pull, push, legs. Which one should I do? What's going to work? And that's the problem, is you need to have confidence in the training plan that you're following in order to stick to it long enough. If you're doing a plan that you think in the back of your mind that's not going to really work, you're hardly going to commit to it 100%. So generic plans that aren't definitively going to help a skinny fat physique improve, you're kind of already losing the battle before you started. Not to mention skinny fat's a specific niche problem, meaning that generic workouts might not necessarily help you lose the body fat and gain muscle at the same time. And 9 times out of 10, most generic workouts lack any programming or progressive overload or any mesocycles to keep your body improving. So they basically stop working after a few months, and that's if you've stuck to it properly. And then the 4th most common skinny fat mistake I see that gets people stuck is dropping their calories down too low and having a severe lack of protein. And this is why skinny fat can be so confusing, right? We're trying to lose body fat and gain muscle, so if you go on a bulk, that's wrong. If you try and go on a cut, that's wrong. What do we do, right? And I'll explain why that's an issue now. If the calories are too low too soon, what happens is the first few weeks you'll be okay, right? You've still got residual carbs and glycogen from the previous diet you were following, so you might think, oh, this is easy. I'm eating 1,000 calories, 2 weeks in, easy peasy, happy days. But when you get 3-4 weeks in, your body starts to deplete itself of carbs and glycogen, your body's actually adapting into the fact that you're eating such little calories, sure, the scales come down, you might look a bit thinner, but in reality, you're losing carbs, water weight, glycogen, kind of all the same thing there, and you'll be losing muscle tissue because you're not eating enough to sustain the lean mass that you currently have. So yes, you're losing body fat, but you're also doing more damage than good. Not only that, when it's that extreme, it's very easy to fall off and be inconsistent, kind of all in or nothing. So the second you mess up or you get hungry or you binge, you kind of go right back to square one. And it becomes this horrible toxic relationship of extreme diet and starvation and punishing yourself to binging and eating everything you've missed out on for the past few weeks. As you can see, it's not very sustainable, nor is it healthy, nor is it worth doing. And then having a severe lack of protein in a calorie deficit also means that you're going to lose more lean mass. If you're not eating sufficient protein, your body will go catabolic, you'll lose muscle, so you end up getting smaller, losing body fat, yes, but you're probably going to lose muscle as well, which means you end up a smaller version of skinny fat, which means by the time you go on a bulk, you're kind of just adding the muscle you've just lost. And if you do that wrong, you're going to put the fat back on. So as you can see, it's not quite straightforward to fix a skinny fat physique, or at least based on the information that most people follow. Cardio, calorie deficits, bulks, generic training plans, etc. So these are the common mistakes that keep most skinny fat men stuck and feeling insecure and very low confident with their body type and kind of lost and not knowing what to do next. So what's the exact strategy that's helped over 167 clients drop body fat and gain muscle within as little as 14 weeks all the way up to 12 months? I'm going to break down the little strategy that we follow to make sure that this works every time. So if you want to get bigger, stronger and leaner and actually feel confident with your shirt off and when you look in the mirror, here's what you need to be doing instead. Number one, recomposition training. Now first, let me just clarify what I mean by recomposition. A recomposition is we want to swap fat for muscle, lose body fat and gain muscle. Now a quick disclaimer, because my channel is all about being completely honest and to the point, you're not really going to gain a lot of muscle in a calorie deficit. If you're brand new to the gym or you haven't quite trained very long, you can absolutely gain muscle in a calorie deficit like my client Reese did here. In 12 months, he did a recomposition, he lost body fat, but he also gained all this muscle in a calorie deficit, purely down to how he trained, how he tracked his food and how he adjusted over time. But that doesn't mean it's going to work for everyone, because you may have been training for 5-6 years and still stuck, in which case it's very unlikely that you're going to gain muscle in a recomposition. However, if we opt for a recomposition instead of a cut, you're far more likely to keep muscle, which is going to help speed up the process, and by the end of it you're going to be stronger and leaner instead of being smaller, basically preventing muscle loss. So we are literally recompositioning the body by losing body fat and keeping muscle. So how do we train for a recomp? Most people think, right, time to lose body fat, let's go light and controlled and toned and go for endurance and spend calories. And if you do that as a skinny fat guy, you're going to lose muscle again because your reps are too high, you're not challenging the muscle tissue, and if you're in a calorie deficit whilst lifting lighter weights, your muscles have no need to remain at the size that they currently are, so they will shrink and adapt over time. But a muscle that gets stronger will need to keep its size so it can keep up with the level of resistance that's being put through. So this means to optimize your cut and not lose body fat and essentially achieve a recomposition, we need to be focusing on getting stronger in one way, shape or form in the gym. And this could be any way you want. This could be a full body workout routine once, twice per week if you're really busy. It could be an upper body, lower split, which you could do twice per week, so A and B if you want the volume, or it could just be a simple pull push legs that you hit in each muscle group at least once per week. And if you're crazy, you could do it twice a week frequency, so you do pull push legs, which I wouldn't necessarily recommend because sometimes you can overtrain or under recover where your performance will suffer and you might lose a bit of muscle if you're not eating enough to sustain that. What I generally aim for is a pull push legs with my clients, and then I will assess their performance and then tweak it around them and their genetics so that they don't hit any plateaus. Everyone's got different biomechanics, muscle groups that respond well, muscle groups that don't respond well. If you're hitting everything with an even amount per week and then adjusting it, you can't lose. And then whatever that workout routine is that you can stick to, track your workouts and aim to get stronger by adding weights where you can. And if you cannot add weight, maybe add reps and volume to a degree, or find an alternative to a movement. Either way, if you're tracking it, you should be able to identify what areas your workouts are lacking, and then you can adjust them accordingly. But definitely have a bias towards getting stronger. Compound lifts like bench press, squats, deadlifts, or if you can't do those movements, the machine variations will also help. As long as you're getting stronger or retaining your strength whilst you're losing body fat, so your power to weight ratio is getting better, you will keep as much muscle on this cut as possible, but you will also have the likelihood of gaining more muscle if you're still relatively new to the gym, or if you haven't ever trained that hard. You can still get newbie gains if you haven't pushed yourself to your limit. That's how a lot of my clients were able to gain muscle whilst being in a calorie deficit doing a recomposition. So that's the training side of things for a recomposition. The second point, and the second way we fix this, is eating for a recomposition. And that's going to be done by having an accurate balance of calories and an accurate split of macronutrients. This means we want to stop the dirty bulks and the extreme cuts and jumping from one end to the other. If you keep going on bulks and cuts back to back, you're going to basically add muscle and lose muscle. You're going to add fat and lose fat. And you kind of get left in this bro cycle of just going back and forward between cuts and bulks. Like my client Avi did, right? He got stuck in that for a very long time. So what we did was focus on a recomp to get him lean so he could go on a lean growing phase. We went on a lean growing phase as long as we could to get as much muscle and size as possible. And then we followed it up with a mini recomp at the end to tidy things up. And now we're on a reverse diet so he can eat more and sustain his physique long term. So instead of going in a massive calorie deficit like a traditional cut where people just eat 1200, 1500 calories right off the bat, which puts you at risk of losing muscle and again, poor recovery, poor performance, which is also going to perpetuate the fact you're not going to be able to keep up with the routine if your nutrition's not supporting the training. We want to aim for a healthier, smaller calorie deficit, somewhere between 300 and 500 below your maintenance when you factor in your workout routines. And again, if you need help with that, you can use my nutritional blueprint, which will break that down for you. But if you have a smaller calorie deficit, you're going to lose body fat, but still be eating enough to sustain the performance and to sustain the muscle tissue. Now, a lot of people struggle with this because they think, well, the scale's not dropping down 10 pounds a week, it must not be working. But you're not going to lose 10 pounds of fat every week. You can lose 10 pounds of scale weight if you eat nothing because you're starving yourself, water weight, glycogen, less food, less volume, etc. But we want to be losing about half a pound to a pound of fat per week. And the way we can do this is hit that slight calorie deficit, but also have your macros set up in a way to preserve more muscle. So we want high protein, moderate carb, and moderate fat. We need fats for your joints, your health, your cholesterol levels, testosterone production, the absorption of nutrients. Fats are vital. You don't want to drop the fats too low. Protein we need for the amino acids to repair muscle tissue, to eat enough to not burn through muscle tissue when you're in a deficit, so that we keep the performance and keep the strength, which means we can keep the muscle. And if those two things are in place, your body has no choice but to lose body fat due to the training and the macros and the calories you're hitting. Carbs, yes, they're important. They're not bad like everyone makes out. Sugar's not going to kill you, but it is the one macro that you can cut down with very little negative side effects compared to fats and protein. So make sure you get those numbers correct. Aim for a small deficit, high protein, good macro split, and then track it. It needs to be accurate. I have a lot of conversation with people when they tell me, oh, I've been tracking for ages, mate, food's spot on, but results ain't there. And if their food's spot on, the results ain't there, their food isn't spot on. As simple as that. Yes, there is such thing as metabolic adaptation, so your body will get used to it over time, hence why you need to track it so you can adjust it and also get stronger in the gym, which will help counteract that. But if you're not seeing results, 9 times out of 10, the food is not as accurate as you think it is. People forget there are a lot of hidden calories. Teas and coffees, right? There's milk in here, a little dribble. It's probably only 26 calories, but if I have 3 of these a day, you know, it does add up. I used to cook eggs, chicken, beef every single day, and I'd use a little tablespoon of oil. And, you know, my dumb ass was like, oh, oil, let's cook that. Oh, it's gone. Lovely, no calories. No, it soaks into the food. It doesn't evaporate like you might think. And if you add up the teas and coffees and the oil that I wasn't tracking, I was well over by like 300 to 400 calories per day, which is most of my deficit. So a lot of times people forget the hidden calories, and then little things like the accuracy of what you're eating. Are you weighing out your foods and actually paying attention to it? For example, dry pasta versus cooked pasta, dry rice versus cooked rice. They weigh different amounts because they absorb water. So which one are you tracking and weighing? Because it could easily be off and you could easily be over without realizing it. And some people just estimate the foods and hope for the best. And if your food's not accurate, the results won't be accurate. There's one thing you take away from this video, it's get your food accurate, because I guarantee you that make more progress than anything else you could follow, because it is a mathematical equation of thermodynamics and energy balance. If we achieve that, you're guaranteed to be seeing some progress. Now, speaking of tracking and reviewing, 3, we want to pay attention to the details so that we can avoid plateaus. Anytime you start a fitness transformation, you're going to be excited at the start and everything's going to work because it's all new and it's all hypersensitive and your body's going to respond to it. If you've never been to the gym before and you go there and you do 4 sets of 10 push-ups, you're going to get a chest pump. Your chest is going to feel thicker and fuller and you're going to think to yourself, man, if I keep this up for 9 months, I'm going to look insane. But, you know, 2, 3, 4, maybe 6 weeks in, push-ups kind of stop working. You can't really get any more reps. You're kind of fatiguing. It's not really progressing and your body just looks the same. That's because you've hit a plateau. Your body has become accustomed to what you're putting it through, which means you've hit a wall. And that's fine. That's how we progress. You set a target, you hit the target. If you don't set a higher target, why would your body keep getting better doing the same thing it's already accustomed to doing? It's not being challenged. And this is why I get all my clients to track their performance, their weigh-ins, their progress photos, their food, anything that's relevant to their goals and their targets. This means that they know exactly what they're doing each week. They can be as flexible as they need to because they can fit it around a busy schedule. They don't need to be perfect because we're still paying attention to what's going on, which means we can be adaptive. And then each week we can review that in extreme detail and pay attention to those numbers. So if something stops working, we can easily identify what isn't working and make the necessary adjustments at that time. And the reason that's so powerful is if you hit a plateau and you don't even know you've hit a plateau until it's gone on for a few weeks, and then you don't know why you've hit a plateau, you might be subject to jumping and trying different programs. Oh, maybe I should do keto, maybe I should do full body. And it's just jumping and stopping and starting. That's the reason you're not getting anywhere. If you chase 2 rabbits, you'll catch neither one. But if we focus on 1 rabbit and we monitor that rabbit and we catch it every single time and we adjust with the speed, kind of going all in on this rabbit analogy. But you see what I mean? If you're going for the one thing and you're progressively getting better at it And if it gets easy, you make it harder, you save yourself months, if not years of time. In fact, I personally hit a 3-year plateau because I was doing the same workout routine the same way. I was pushing myself, I was eating all the right foods, I was even tracking everything, but I looked the same for about 3 years. And I thought, I've just hit my natural limit, that's all I can do. Bottom line is my program was kind of lacking, and there were certain things I needed to change for me specifically to progress. So as soon as I went and looked through it and reviewed it, I was like, actually, I haven't increased the weight on my bench for a long time. I haven't improved my form of this movement. I could probably add a bit more volume here and there. Maybe I need to tweak my macros. As soon as I did that, I was able to make more progress in 6 months than in those previous 3 years. So it can really save you a lot of time and frustration. So every week I review all of my clients' progress that they've tracked, and then we make sure we adjust things as and when needed to save time and speed things up. And then number 4, this is very, very important. I find this day and age, it's actually getting worse, is your mindset and expectations. The amount of times I spoke to someone and they've told me, I want to look like this guy, but in 6 weeks. And the guy they've shown me has been training for like 20 years. They take steroids, they've got great genetics, and they're a professional athlete. And this person is expected to look like them in 6 weeks. I don't think so. Losing body fat takes time, just as long as it takes time to gain body fat. And then gaining muscle is even slower. If you want to lose body fat and gain muscle, it's a bit of a journey. It's not a 2-week fix, a 6-week fix. There's no such thing as 30-second cock push-ups and blink and biceps and 2-minute fucking toenails. Who cares? It's about stacking wins, stacking habits, and building momentum, keeping your eyes focused on the bigger goal at hand that's going to take time. It is a journey and it is a lifestyle, as cliche and cringy as it is to say. You have to trust the strategy, and there are no shortcuts. Having an ice bath isn't going to fix anything, and what type of pre-workout isn't really going to make much of a difference. Now, can you see big changes in 12 weeks? Yes. Here's my client Matthew, who was able to lose all of his body fat in 12 weeks, but he didn't miss a single day. He was already training in good momentum, and he locked in his food and training immediately. And he worked really freaking hard, let's be real, right? So that is like an exception to the rule. Some people can pull it off if they've got the right help, the right strategy, and they're working their butt off with minimal distractions. Some people, it takes longer. My client Alex here lost over 165 pounds. That took over a year. That was like, 16 months? And that's because the journey was longer. And at the start, she was very unsure about whether to go to the gym, and it was a lot of learning and a lot of getting her to trust me before we move forward with things. So the process can take a little while. But for most people, it's going to take longer, Reese, it took 12 months. Now, is that amazing for 12 months? Yes, most men, that will take them 6 years, and some people will never get there. So yes, it is faster with coaching and help and having a strategy, but it's still not an overnight fix. So just by understanding that and setting up your expectations correctly makes the whole thing a lot easier. I've legitimately had clients join in with, a belly that's twice the size of their whole body, and they want to lose it in 2 weeks. And because they haven't lost it in 2 weeks, they quit and then start drinking loads of beer and wondering where it all went wrong. And the problem there was their mentality and expectations were skewed. And that's not even their fault. The fitness industry promises the world and under-delivers. The amount of times you go on Facebook or something like that and there's going to be, you're not fat, just have this freaking microbiome powder and you'll shit your pants and you'll have abs in 2 weeks. Just look at the guy on the bottle who's been training with steroids for 12 years. Seems legit, right? That's the fitness industry in a nutshell. And that's kind of why I make this channel, to cut through the noise, especially for skinny fat guys. As I was a skinny fat guy for a long time, it took me 7 years to realize where I was going wrong, and where I was going wrong was taking so much generic advice and not really understanding what I needed to do specifically, and just trusting all the magazines that promised me I'd look amazing in 6 weeks, realizing in 7 years I looked the same, if not slightly worse. But by getting your mentality right and focusing and committing to the journey properly and not getting distracted and doing what's going to work for you, that is the fastest, most efficient and most guaranteed way to finally succeed and gain that confidence and build the physique of your dreams, which for me personally was the best thing I've ever done in my life. It's completely transformed my life inside and out. Now look, you can keep spinning your wheels, jumping from program to program, following the same things that you've been following for the past few years and hoping for different results. Or you can follow a specific strategy that's been built specifically for people like you that are struggling with a skinny fat physique. So if you're ready to fast track everything and want the one-to-one help that's worked from all these other clients that are in the exact same shoes as you at the starting point, you can apply down below for one-to-one coaching with me, and we can have a call and chat about your goals. Also, don't forget to download the nutritional blueprint that will help get you kick-started and make sure that your food is done correctly. And if you can relate to the skinny fat struggle, make sure you hit like and subscribe. Feel free to drop a comment if you've got any questions. And if you want to watch a video about the brutal skinny fat truths that I wish I knew years ago, you can watch this video right here. This video here. If you clicked it yet, this is not mine, by the way. Nothing wrong with pink bottles, I'm just saying, it's my girlfriend's. Got a funny story about this, actually. If you want me to tell it, leave me a comment, and I probably shouldn't tell that story, really, but yeah. If you watched that video yet, coffee's cold now. Probably should stop the video. Goodbye.